Welcome to The Complete Plate. Today we're going to be talking about the social gathering and all of the temptation that surrounds the social gathering with sweet treats and delicious yummy treats, and how you can survive and not gain an extra 10 pounds. Welcome back to The Complete Plate. So today, as I was mentioning, we're talking about social gatherings. And I know, did you guys, this past weekend, we went and we had Bella's birthday party, which was a lot of fun. And Bella's now 3, and there was a ton of food there. Do you want to just tell everyone kind of what you made?
Well, so we do a celiac birthday party because I'm celiac and my daughter is as well. So it goes from cake, and it's usually like a few different types of cake, but I only chose one this time because she actually picked her cake. Gluten-free corn dogs. First time I ever had a corn dog.
Oh, they were so yummy.
Veggies and dip, fruit and dip, I don't know, bruschetta. You could probably name more stuff that I made, but I just can't even think about it because it's so much food.
Yeah, there's so much food, and I remember the chocolate dipped cookies.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And the meringues, and it was
the bubblegum meringues.
So yummy. There's so much food, but I can't judge because I am just as crazy of a Pinterest mom, I think, as well. You can see pictures of my daughter's birthday. We've had the theme of pinwheels and polka dots. We did Charlotte's Web because her name is Charlotte. And then last year we did an Olaf beach party. And her birthday's in May, but I've already had planned what we're doing this year.
I am not surprised.
I know, I'm crazy. We're doing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So that means there is going to be a lot of food and treats. And, yes. So yes, at her past birthdays, it's usually I have a dessert room and then an actual food room. But there's just something about social gatherings and food. And you know, I think so often you hear all these things about how to survive the social gathering, and it's like you get through one thing to the next and then another social gathering comes up. But just think about it, in the last month, how many social gatherings have you guys been to? Like for myself, I've been to like 4 big social gatherings with lots of food, from baby showers to birthdays to sporting events, any excuse to get friends together and to eat food. Yeah. What about you guys?
Well, and it seems like with potlucks too, everybody always like jumps on the desserts right away. It's like an easy thing to bring, right? And I'd say the same, probably like 5 or 6 different gatherings this month.
Yeah. So it's so often people will start a diet and then fall off the bandwagon because some social event came up. But it's really an intricate part of our lives, and I think we need to figure out a realistic way of how we can bring those into our lives and enjoy them, because there's so much I find that people are like, how do you survive the social gathering? And I think we need to get away from that
or counting the calories,
yeah.
Like, you know, when you're looking at a cake, how many calories, or like, can I have a tinier slice? That's when I cut them a bigger slice.
I like your way of thinking, but yeah, getting away from this, I don't think it should be surviving the social gathering anymore. I think we need to enjoy and thrive from the social gathering. And Janine, you have such an amazing perspective on this. Can you elaborate a bit more just on the complexities of our food choices?
Yeah, I mean, we make more than 200 food choices a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like more than we ever think, because, you know, we pass by like these cupcakes, and when I sat down here, I'm like, am I going to eat one? I don't know, maybe later, I'll keep my eye on them. So we make lots of food choices in a day, and it's not just to nourish our body. Food is fuel, for sure. Our body needs it to function properly, but we also choose to eat things based on social reasons and celebrations and cultural reasons. And so food choices are very intricate, and that's why it's challenging sometimes to make changes, because we're trying to do something solely for physical health. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but we forget about our emotional and our social health as well. And one way to look at it is health your end goal that you're trying to achieve, or is health really a tool that allows you to live the life you want to? Is it the tool that allows you to do the activities that you want to? And that's part of it with social engagement. We're meeting usually, not always, but usually for enjoyable reasons. And then we go in and it's a negative experience for us because we see things we're trying to restrict and deprive ourselves from. And so exactly, how do we incorporate different strategies to still enjoy those moments?
Yeah, no, I love that. going back to our roots and finding the joys in socializing and fellowship again, our joys in eating foods, not restricting foods, but equipping people with the tools to be able to have that self-control and to not feel deprived. Because especially with my diagnosis with ARVC and not being allowed to exercise anymore, I started off right away just giving up all of these wonderful foods that I've enjoyed for so long, and very quickly resented my diagnosis and resented my journey. And I think that's so the case when people start to try to change their food behaviors is avoiding resenting the process. Because as soon as you do that, it's you're not going to be successful and you're not going to be able to establish these long-term eating habits. So when we come back, we're going to be looking at some of our favorite comfort foods, because you don't want to give up wonderful things like macaroni and cheese and nachos and what are some of your favorite comfort foods?
Brownies and ice cream, and I love chicken wings, hot Frank's, or Frank's chicken wings or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I gotta say chocolate. Like if it has chocolate in it, yeah. And I'm also a baked goods person. Like you get me a French croissant.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting really hungry. So we should get to our next segment, and we're going to show you how to make some healthy comfort foods when we come back. Welcome back to The Complete Plate. So we're going to show you how to make some healthier versions of comfort foods, because we don't want to be cutting those out of our diets as we're making behavioral changes. Because as Janine mentioned earlier, there's so much more to food than just nourishing our bodies. There's a joy that comes from eating and comfort, and that's why we call them comfort foods. So the first dish that we're going to be making is macaroni and cheese. I don't know of anyone who doesn't like macaroni and cheese. So we feel this is a good dish to focus on, and how to make it healthier but still taste really good. So to start off with the dish, we're going to add flavor by putting some shallots and some garlic in it. And Ashley, maybe you want to talk a bit about how that's really like the base of a lot of dishes.
Yeah. It provides a lot of flavor, number one, and also depending on how you cook your garlic and your onions or whatever from the beginning, because you can caramelize them down, so it'll give it actually sweeter taste to the dish. So it's kind of like a hidden sugar almost. And then you can also add salt and stuff to taste, and that actually breaks down the garlic and the onions from the very beginning as well while you're chopping them up.
And I also find there's so many different onions. I personally prefer shallots because they're a lighter flavor. What onions do you use for which dishes?
So for shallots, it's a pretty happy medium to use them, because they are the sweetest onion to use. So you can pretty much use them in anything. In terms of white onions and stuff, I prefer that in like a stock. And actually when you're making your stock, don't peel the onion back just to get the whites of the onion, but actually the brown has a lot of flavor in it. Just discard it after you've made your broth.
Okay, so right now you're just sauteing up the onion and the garlic.
We're just browning everything up, yeah.
And so this is a great way to add flavor into your dish without adding a lot of calories. And I think that's really the key for comfort dishes, is how you can find ways to add all of that flavor. So starting off with the garlic and onions and the grapeseed oil is a great way to add flavor into the dish. So then the next step.
Just make sure that your pan, make sure your pan is really hot before you add your shallots and onions, because it'll make things not stick. So remember, oil always is a non-stick, butter is a taste. So add the butter to taste.
Awesome. And actually that's one of the biggest mistakes I always made when I first started cooking, was starting off with a room temperature pan and then bringing the heat up. So that's a really good point. The next thing we're gonna add to our sauce, once the onions have gone translucent and the garlic becomes fragrant, so that's about 3 to 5 minutes, you're gonna add in a cup of chicken stock. And you're gonna add in a cup and a half of butternut squash puree. We are actually just using a butternut squash puree soup, but you can always make your own as well. But if you're wanting to save time and convenience, there are a lot of healthier options now on the market. So we just used a pre-made soup. So you're gonna add that in. Also, you're gonna add in, so this is kind of the key of where you can add flavor without adding a lot of calories. And this is one of the tricks that I really like, is in the sauce, while the sauce is cooking for the macaroni and cheese, we're gonna add some Parmesan rind, because it adds a lot of that really wonderful cheesy flavor, but it's not gonna add a lot of the calories and extra saturated and trans fats. So that's gonna simmer for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then as that simmers, we're gonna add, and just let the flavors come together. Then you're gonna slowly add in half a cup of kefir. Do you wanna maybe talk a little bit more about kefir and just fermented food products?
So kefir is a fermented dairy product, and one of the benefits of getting those fermented dairy products is for the probiotics that are in our gut. And we're finding more and more how those bacteria are linked to so many aspects of our health. So again, not superfood. You don't need to go and drink like 2 liters of kefir a day, but incorporating more of those fermented foods is beneficial for our health.
Yeah, and it's also really high in calcium too, which is nice. And it's the kefir in this dish adds a really nice sour tart taste that really works well with the cheese. And then you want to mix it in slowly just to make sure that it doesn't curdle. Yeah. And then we have half a cup of half and half cream. So here at the complete plate, as we said, there's no foods that are don't eat this, don't eat that, but there's places for everything within a dish, and as long as it's put in with consideration. Any good macaroni and cheese has a rich, cheesy flavor, and that often means a lot of added cheese into macaroni and cheese. So how can we go about not losing that cheesy flavor, but still not increasing all those calories? And one of the keys is to use a really rich cheese to begin with, so you don't have to use a lot. So we have 100 grams of white old cheddar, because I don't know if you want to speak to that, but it's a much richer flavor than just a regular cheddar cheese.
Yeah, you honestly don't need as much when you use a extra old cheddar. It just brightens the flavor, and it brings the true flavor of homemade mac and cheese to life.
And additionally too, we have 20 grams of rich Parmesan cheese that's actually been ground from the Parmesan block of cheese. And then additionally, this is a trick that I like to use for cheesy dishes to get that rich cheesy flavor without adding a lot of the calories, is nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is rich in vitamin B12 and really provides that rich cheddar flavor without adding all the cholesterol that comes with cheese. And maybe do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of the background of nutritional yeast and where it came from?
One of the benefits of using a nutritional yeast is that you get, like you said, that vitamin B12, which is actually quite challenging to get if you especially are vegetarian. So it's a benefit for that. And with replacing some of the cheese, what we're really looking for is that saturated fat and the salt that comes with it. And so finding those tangy, strong flavor alternatives is beneficial.
So the last little bit that we're going to add is cornstarch. Cornstarch just works as a thickener to thicken the sauce. And one of the tricks that I like to do, I like to add a little bit of water to it first and mix it, because if you pour it into your sauce like this right away, it goes in clumpy. And it's
make sure it's cold water, not hot, or because it forms lumps if you don't add
cold water.
And just make sure you mix it together so that there aren't any clumps.
But yeah, cornstarch is a great thickener, especially if you are celiac and can't do a traditional roux with butter and flour. Cornstarch is an amazing option.
Yeah, and make sure you switch to a whisk as well, so it incorporates everything better. And like I said, get to the edges, because that's where you're going to get the browning if you don't have a proper pan.
Well, it's smelling amazing in here.
It is. And just while Ashley is working at mixing the sauce together, you probably noticed when we first laid out the ingredients, there was a lot of white or beige ingredients.
Yes, that's a very good point.
And we talk about making your plate very colorful.
Yes.
And the reason for that is there's different nutrients associated with different color groups of food. And so it is great to incorporate a variety, but not to forget the white foods as well, and like those beige colored foods. And so with the ingredients we added in, we had calcium, we had potassium in there, vitamin B12. So there still is a nutritional function for those foods.
Yeah.
Which can,
So yeah, no, it smells amazing right now. So once the sauce thickens, so after you've added the cornstarch, you let it thicken. It'll probably take about 3 to 5 minutes.
On medium heat.
On medium heat,
Don't
yeah.
do any of it on high because you'll burn it.
And while Ashley was making the sauce, we also just boiled some pasta. There's so many great options on the market now for pastas that you can get that are more nutrient dense than just, and have fiber added to them too, than just a white pasta.
when you're trying to choose a pasta, trying to choose one that has at least 2 grams of fiber per serving will help to bump up your fiber intake. And then again, exploring different types. So I mean, there's now black bean pasta, quinoa pasta, your regular wheat pasta. So don't be afraid to explore. They all have different nutrients in them and something they can offer.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So there's lots of great options, but I think just avoiding the or the plain white pasta, because
Yes, definitely want to add the fiber wherever we can. Almost every Canadian gets not enough fiber.
so Ashley's just adding the pasta after it's been drained directly into the sauce, and we're just gonna mix the rich creamy sauce together with the pasta. And we did already have one made. This looks amazing, and this is the final product. So are we gonna get to dive in and try some?
I really like the color that the butternut squash brought out in it.
Yeah, it looks very cheesy. And like this looks,
And it smells like macaroni and cheese. Like it.
and it looks like macaroni and cheese. It's
And Ashley, while you're scooping this out, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the role that fat plays in cooking? Because I know there's a big push for low fat, and really, again, moderation, trying to balance out how much fat we're getting, but there is a function for it in cooking.
Yeah, and fat provides flavor. So like I said before, butter is your flavor. So you don't need to add a lot of fat to make it taste good. It's the flavor, it's basically taste, and then it also brings things together too. There's a reason for everything in cooking, and it always brings things together, and it also satisfies your taste buds too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
It's hot.
it's amazing how far like a rich cheddar goes.
Yeah.
Because that is really cheesy, but we didn't put a lot of cheese into it.
No.
So no.
Yeah, you just want a little bit for that.
Yeah. And there's still a lot of flavor in there. I love
delicious.
that. Yeah. Okay, so our next comfort food that we are going to be making is nachos. So what are some tricks with nachos that we can do to make it not have it loaded up with lots of extra cheese? And so Janine, what are some options that we can do?
Well, I think one of the things Ashley can speak to as well is having really strong, flavorful ingredients in it. I think we rely a lot on cheese because it is a strong flavor. It has a lot of salt, but there's so many great toppings you can put on nachos that don't provide as many calories, but provide that punch of flavor. And then again, the volume. It's easy to just I know you get the layering techniques, you put the layers of nachos and cheese that keep going. So it's easy to really add in a lot of those high calorie ingredients. So just being mindful of that. And also the end portion size. Share them among family and friends so you're not eating the whole pan to yourself, but can still really enjoy the flavor of them.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely it. And I think one of the other things too that makes such a difference is loading it up with veggies and fiber, and we also have some proteins on here too with the chicken. So yeah, let's throw this together.
And another thing too is you can theme your nachos too. So Mediterranean nachos, or a ham and cheese nachos, or you don't have to be basic and just use the basic nacho ingredients. Just put some nachos on your pan with parchment paper, so you don't actually have to wash the pan afterwards, because nobody likes dishes. So spread the peppers all around, and you'll just want to kind of put the ingredients that take a little bit more time to cook more towards the top. So you still like the crunch of the peppers on there, then put them further down. And next you'll add the chicken.
And we did use a blue corn tortilla because it is a little bit higher in fiber.
Yeah, I think it comes back down to the label reading again. So if you're trying to decide between different options, using that skill and looking for the ones that are richer in fiber and lower in salt.
So you want to put your onions and your shallots on top because they are going to cook need to be cooked the most. The reason being is the heat will reach them first.
So we put peppers, chicken, olives, and shallots and chives.
Yes.
Looks amazing.
So then we'll add our cheese.
And again, this is the white old cheddar, so very rich flavor. And there is 200 grams of cheese there.
And it fills the whole plate,
Or 100 grams, sorry.
fills the whole tray. So,
Yeah.
you don't really need a lot to go a long way, right?
Well, and that's where I think shredding cheese makes such a difference too. Just even your prep is, even the finer the shred, the more you can displace your cheese.
So you put this in the oven at 350 for about 10 minutes until the cheddar's like golden on the top.
Perfect.
And
then when we serve it, there's a few different options with sides and even where the calories can add up to with that. And not even just calories, like I don't want to demonize calories, but just with things like sour cream and the fats and stuff can add up. But one trick that I like to do is to use a Greek yogurt, a really thick Greek yogurt, and looking for one that's high in protein. So there's some options that you can get out there that are like 16 grams of protein per portion. So it's just another option of just increasing your nutrient density into your meals. And then just using a salsa salsa is actually a great condiment. If you can make one, it's easy to make yourself. And you can do it reduced sodium. But it's just lots of chunks of tomato and onion and cilantro, if you like cilantro.
That would be mine, yeah.
But yeah, so and again, just and even the guacamole, like guacamole, like the avocado can be really healthy or can be added again, lots of extra fats in there. So, but good fats.
The more that you do yourself, really, the more you have control over what you're making. So you can definitely monitor the salt and the fat intake and make it even more delicious.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But yeah, so healthy options for your comfort foods. We have come up with some amazing ideas of how to enjoy the social gatherings with friends and family. We've looked at different ways of comfort foods and how you can increase the nutrient density in those dishes. But there's also, it's nice to have some tricks of how to help with self-control. Because even following all of these amazing tips, I know there's a lot of us, myself included, who can't stop at the third cupcake and want to keep going. So how can we equip ourselves that we can still enjoy the foods, enjoy the sugars and the treats, but also have that balance of not going to the extreme and just indulging. So there's a few tricks that I've come up with, or that I've noticed since I've started my journey with living with ARBC, and hopefully they can help you too. But one of the keys is if I'm going out and I know I'm going and there's going to be a lot of food, I usually try to eat something that is high in fiber and high in protein before I leave the house, just to keep myself slightly full already. So Janine, what are some good options for high fiber, high protein snacks that you can have before you leave the house?
For sure. So things like having fruit with some sort of protein to it. So like banana with nut butter spread on it, or a handful of nuts with another piece of fruit. Using a small portion of cheese with a really high fiber biscuit or cracker can be beneficial. Things like a Greek yogurt with some sort of high fiber cereal sprinkled on it. Again, those are foods high in fiber, high in protein that can stretch you a long ways. Because one of the things that can really trigger those overindulgences is showing up really hungry already.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point too, because this is something I'm so guilty of. And like you said, there's not a problem with doing it once in a while, but social gatherings are a huge part of our lives. And I think so often, especially for times like maybe Christmas or Thanksgiving, where you know you're going for a large meal, I tend to not eat the whole day so that I can binge and fill up on all these amazing goodies and treats when I go for a family dinner. So just kind of back to what you were saying about that is just trying to stabilize yourself throughout the day so it's not one big meal. Yeah. So some other tricks too is I have a terrible sweet tooth. And again, it's nice to have those treats every once in a while, but I tend to struggle with stopping with just 2 Halloween candies or 1 cupcake. You want to keep going. So one thing that I have relied on is tea. And what I'll usually do is, it's kind of a bit of a mental game, I find, is I'll start with a cup of tea. And I usually pick a sweeter tea, one with fruit in it. I don't usually put added stuff like cream or sugar into it, but I'll start with a sweeter tea and tell myself if I still want something sweet after that, then I can have something, but I don't restrict myself. And I find that really helps, because usually by the time I've finished a cup of tea, I'm full from just the water itself. And my sweet tooth has been satisfied by the sweeter tea. It's kind of funny, this mental game that you have to play, but it does help to not look at it as restricting, but just, yeah, going step by step.
And I think adding things you enjoy. So you're at a social gathering, you're with people that hopefully you enjoy spending time with. So a strategy you can use with that is, have your tea and then go distract yourself.
Yeah.
So if you've had some desserts and you're like, oh, I'd really like to go back for that 3rd cupcake or whatever you were saying, distract yourself for 15 minutes, make tea and go find somebody that you want to catch up with and go and talk to them and have a conversation for 15 minutes. And that distraction can really help give your body time to recognize that it's actually full as well.
And that's a good point, because how long does it take our bodies to realize that we are full after we've eaten?
It can take about 15 to 20 minutes. So by that time, you've usually already had like 2nd or 3rds, and then we feel that overfull feeling, which isn't pleasant either and doesn't really contribute to a fun evening.
That is very true. So don't say no, don't tell yourself no, but try these tricks of have a glass of tea first, go socialize, and then come back. Don't say that you can't come back and not have any more, but give that a try. The other thing that I find really helps me with the mindless snacking, and I think that's the difference too. There's a difference between mindless snacking and eating for the joy of food. So one of the things that I like to do is, after I'm done eating or I've had that first dessert or treat at a social gathering, is to put in a stronger mint or a piece of gum that's really intense mint flavor, because I find there's something about mint that you don't want to have orange juice or something after you've had a mint. It
satisfies the palate more.
Yeah, exactly. Peppermint's amazing for that. Any sort of a mint candy or a piece of mint gum. The other option is to actually go and brush your teeth in between meals, because we brush our teeth after we have breakfast, because if I were to brush my teeth before breakfast, I tend to not want to eat my breakfast, because that mint just doesn't go very well. But do you guys have any other sort of tricks or tips that you notice helps you in social gatherings?
I think you had a really good point, Lauren, about not feeling deprived. And so, especially you see it with kids because they're just very honest about everything, but adults have it too. If you say don't touch that, what are you thinking about? Yeah. It is just going to cause it to preoccupy your mind and your thoughts. And so instead of having that approach, really being positive and looking more at what you want to have and being positive about adding things in, so adding in the mint, adding in the tea, trying that approach versus that restrictive approach.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And I honestly, what I do is I love dark chocolate. So I just have a stash of dark chocolate and I just grab one little cube of dark chocolate, and that seems to satisfy me, or a cup of coffee even at night, because with 2 kids, caffeine doesn't really work anymore.
But no, I love that point actually about dark chocolate, because I know it's not for everyone, but I find a little piece of dark chocolate when you have a sweet tooth goes so much further than even milk chocolate. It just
and the percentages too, if you don't like dark chocolate, start out with a 60%, so that's not as fully dark kind of thing. So
no, I think these are all some great tips. Hopefully they will help you at your next social gathering. Just some things to consider and think about when you're out. But first and foremost, make sure that you are enjoying your time together, you're enjoying the food, and that you enjoy the fellowship with those around you. And we will see you next time on The Complete Plate.